Hello, welcome back to Kit Corner, and today I will be building the Star Destroyer out of the Death Star 2 Star Destroyer kit. Last time I built the Death Star, this time I will be building the Star Destroyer. So let's take a look and see how this builds. Alright. Like I said, last time we built the Death Star, now we're going to build the Star Destroyer. Well, first off, I'm going to go ahead and get the box out of the way. Alright. First off, the instructions call for it to be painted as a really light gray all over. I'm going to do a little bit more detail on that, but yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and just start taking apart some pieces so I can start painting. And I am going to be doing a light gray, a really light gray base coat. And yeah, let's maybe get started on doing that. Again, I like to try to build as many of the pieces together before painting. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to put some of the pieces together before I paint them. There's a couple pieces here that I can easily put together without having to do any type of workaround for painting. So that's what I'm going to do. Alright, I finished gluing the pieces that I feel comfortable having together while I paint. And now I am going to start mixing some paints for the exterior. I'm going to start off with a lighter gray. This is a little bit too dark, I believe, in my opinion. Yeah, a little too dark. So I'm going to add a little bit of white to that. Yeah, I think that will work. Now I'm going to go ahead and go through and dry brush all these pieces. Or not dry brush, do a base coat on all these pieces. I will see if it will focus in. That's what it looks like before. All the pieces before. So, see what it looks like after I get this painted. Now you might not be able to see, that's with the base coat. You might not be able to tell that much of a difference. If I flip it over, there's some unpainted areas on the back here. But you might not be able to tell a difference between the base coat and the actual bare plastic. That's because that's the effect I want. I wanted the base coat to be very close to the original plastic. The reason why I want a base coat that looks because the plastic was basically the right color, but since I'm going to be doing a lot of painting effects on the model, I need a base coat. I need a base coat on there for the wash to adhere properly, and for the dry brushing to adhere properly. So that is actually really close or spot on to what I was looking for on color-wise. Now, the issue with white or really light colors especially in acrylics and most other paints, is that it takes at least a couple of coats for you to put a pretty decent base coat on. If not, you're going to see all the little brush marks and everything else. And of course, if I use an airbrush, I'd probably eliminate most of that, if not all of that, and only be able to do one coat. But again, I prefer to use a brush rather than a airbrush. So I'm going to go ahead and do a second coat on all these pieces. Alright, I now got my base coat all done. Alright, now I'm going to do a wash. Again, a wash is you're going from lighter to darker. You want to get into the shadows. So I'm going to use a little bit of a darker gray this time. And I'm going to do a half water, half alcohol mix. I'm going to mix that in there. You want a kind of like a consistency of almost like runny ink. It's kind of like the consistency you want with this. Because you want the paint to go into the little crevices and nowhere else. This is a really small model. I am going to get a smaller brush. To get into the finer details. All right, let's see how this works. Alright, this is what it looks like with a wash. Here's an example. Here's one I have not washed yet. I have not put a wash onto it yet. So you can tell the difference. I can definitely tell the difference. See, the shadows are much more... There's a lot more shadows in there. A lot more depth. So here. So now I'm going to go ahead and wash this piece, and then... wash on that piece, and then we'll continue on with the dry brushing. Alright, I got the wash all done now. I think you can tell a little bit better on the engine section. Now I'm going to do a dry brush. Dry brush, you're going lighter. So on this dry brush, I'm going to use a white. I'm going to dry brush every exterior piece except for the engine area, I really do like the way it looks. So I'm going to leave that the way it is right now. And I'm going to do a dry brush using white. Again, a dry brush is basically you are filling up your brush with a lot of paint, then you're wiping majority of it off. So you only have just a little bit of paint on your brush. And then you're going to come in here onto your piece and you're just going to lightly put it on there. So this right here, one thing I'm doing with the white is I'm just going to get some of the highlights. I don't want to cover up the base gray. I just want to get a little bit of the highlight of the white on there. To make some of the spots pop out just a little bit more. I don't know if you can tell, but this side right here I dry brushed white, and this one doesn't have any white on it. So you should be able to tell a little bit of a difference. All right. Let me go ahead and finish the rest of these pieces. Okay, now since I've got all the pieces dry brushed, now I'm going to go through here and I'm going to do some little bit of a detail on some of the other spots, like the hanger bays. I'm going to paint a different color than the standard gray that I use for the exteriors. So I'm going to go through here and try to do some touch-ups for some of these areas. I'm going to use this lighter gray that I use as my initial base coat for the base coat for these, but without adding any white to it or anything else. Just going to be the standard gray out of the bottle. I'm going to use this one for the base coat for the hanger bays and other pieces. For around these main engine parts, inside the main engine areas here, it's really small. I am going to paint darker gray for a base coat in there. So that you see what the bay looks like, all painted in the base coat. Very subtle, but when you compare it to the exterior, which you can definitely tell a difference. Now, for a wash for those for the hanger bay, I'm going to be using a black. I'm just going to do a plain, straight up black wash. All right, see? There you go. There's what it looks like with the wash. I'm quite satisfied with this, and I'm not going to be painting any more on it. So with that, that's all the pieces painted. Now I'm going to let this dry for a moment, and then I'm going to come back and do a clear coat. All right, with all that done, now we're going to do the varnish. We're going to seal this all up so we get ready for the final assembly. All right, now that is all sealed, and now we're going to start assembly. And there you go. One completed Star Destroyer. Well, there you are. Finished Star Destroyer. Put it right next to the finished Death Star too. So yeah, that kit is a really nice kit. I really do like the kits from Bandai. Again, they're really small, but they have a pretty good lot of detail in there. So these are really, really, really nice kits. The Star Destroyer took me about a half a day to fix, build, and the Death Star took me about a day. These are really good for beginner kits. Pretty much a step up from Snap Tights. So I really do recommend these kits. These kits are really nice. Well, until then, I'll see you next time when I build another kit.